The phone call came at 2:37 a.m., jolting me awake with a sense of impending chaos. My hands trembled as I reached for the receiver, the harsh ring cutting through the silent darkness of my bedroom. Amanda. The bank manager's voice was tight, professional, but I detected an underlying current of concern. We need to discuss some irregularities with your family trust. My name is Elena Martinez, 34 years old, and at that moment, I knew my carefully constructed world was about to unravel. The past few years had been a delicate dance of maintaining distance from my husband's family while keeping the peace. Mark's sister, Sophia, had always been the golden child, beautiful, manipulative, and perpetually convinced of her own superiority. Our relationship had been cordial but distant, a carefully maintained facade of familial politeness. But this call was different. There have been unauthorized attempts to transfer the trust fund. The bank manager continued. Multiple document alterations. We flagged several suspicious activities. My mind raced back to the trust fund my grandmother had established, a complex legacy that had been partially hidden from the family for decades. $750,000 carefully invested, protected, waiting. Tell me everything, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The details emerged like a nightmare taking shape. Someone had been meticulously working to redirect the funds, forging signatures, creating elaborate documentation. The trail led directly to Sophia. When I confronted my husband later that morning, Mark's face went pale. She wouldn't, he said, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed his doubt. She already has, I replied, spreading out the bank documents I'd obtained that morning. The evidence was damning. Sophia had been systematically attempting to erase my connection to the trust fund. Forged documents claimed I had been disinherited, fabricated legal papers suggesting I was no longer a rightful heir. What Sophie didn't know was that my grandmother had been far more clever than anyone realized. The trust wasn't just a simple inheritance, it was a carefully constructed puzzle, with safeguards that few knew existed. My grandmother, Maria Delgado, had been more than just a wealthy woman. She was a survivor, a strategic genius who had built her fortune from nothing. Born to immigrant parents, she understood the importance of protection, of leaving nothing to chance. Always have a backup plan, she'd tell me during our long conversations. The world will try to take everything from you. Never let them. Those words echoed in my mind as I began to piece together Sophia's plan. She hadn't just tried to steal the money. She was attempting to completely erase my existence from the family narrative. Mark's family had never fully accepted me. I was an outsider, a woman who didn't come from their wealthy background, who had built my career through hard work rather than family connections. Sophia had always viewed me as a threat, someone who didn't belong in their carefully curated world. Why would she do this? Mark asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and anger. I knew exactly why. The trust fund wasn't just about money. It represented a legacy, a connection to a history that Sophia wanted to control completely. My grandmother's final gift wasn't just financial security. It was a test, a way to ensure that only those who truly understood the value of family and integrity could access the inheritance. I spent the next few days gathering evidence, documenting every attempt Sophia had made to manipulate the trust. Each piece of documentation was another nail in her carefully constructed plan. What Sophia didn't realize was that I had been preparing for this moment my entire life. My grandmother hadn't just left me money, she'd left me a roadmap, a series of clues and protections that would activate if anyone tried to steal what was rightfully mine. The first move would be strategic. I wouldn't confront Sophia directly, not yet. Instead, I would let her believe she was winning, that her elaborate scheme was working perfectly. Little did she know, every action she took was being carefully documented. Every attempt to steal the inheritance was creating a trail that would ultimately lead to her downfall. As I sat in my home office, surrounded by documents and digital evidence, I couldn't help but smile. Sophia thought she was playing a game of financial chess, but she was about to learn that I had been trained by a grandmaster. The trust fund was more than money. It was a testament to my grandmother's wisdom, her understanding that true wealth wasn't just about dollars, but about resilience, strategy, and an unbreakable spirit. Sophia had made a critical mistake. She had underestimated me. And that would be her greatest weakness. The first phase of my plan was about to begin. A plan that would not just protect my inheritance, but expose the deep-seated family dynamics that had been festering for years. My grandmother's voice whispered in my memory. Always be 3 steps ahead, Maija. Always. I was about to make her proud. The next 2 weeks became a carefully choreographed dance of strategic silence. I knew Sophia believed her plan was progressing perfectly. Every move I made was calculated, designed to lull her into a false sense of security. Mark was my unexpected ally. Years of marriage had taught him to trust my instincts, and the pain of his sister's betrayal burned deep. "What's our next move?" he asked one evening, watching me organize the mountain of documentation. "Patience," I replied, my fingers tracing the intricate details of the forged documents. Each alteration was a breadcrumb, each falsified signature a potential weapon. My grandmother's lessons echoed in my mind. Maria Delgado hadn't just been wealthy, she'd been a master strategist. Born to immigrant parents who fought for every opportunity, she understood that true power wasn't about money. It was about information, preparation, and timing. I reached out to a childhood friend, David, who now worked as a forensic document examiner. Our connection was strategic. He owed me a favor from years ago, and his expertise would be crucial. "These forgeries are elaborate," David confirmed after examining the documents, "but not perfect." Sophia made classic mistakes, subtle, but definitive. Each piece of evidence was meticulously cataloged: bank transfers, email communications, even text messages, a comprehensive trail that would expose Sophia's intricate plan. Meanwhile, I maintained a facade of normalcy. Family dinners, casual conversations, never revealing the storm brewing beneath the surface. Sophia believed she was winning, her confidence growing with each passing day. What she didn't know was that every interaction was being carefully documented. Her overconfidence was her greatest weakness. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A casual conversation with Mark's mother revealed more than she intended. "Sophia's been talking about a big investment," she mentioned offhandedly, something about finally securing her future. I knew exactly what that meant. The trust fund money she believed was almost within her grasp. My grandmother had always warned me about people like Sophia, those who believed inheritance was a right, not a responsibility. "Wealth isn't just about money," she'd say. "It's about the legacy you create, the lives you impact." David's forensic analysis confirmed what I suspected. The forgeries weren't just sophisticated. They were part of a larger, more calculated plan. Sophia hadn't just tried to steal the money. She was attempting to completely rewrite the family's financial history. "She's been planning this for months," David revealed during our final consultation. Multiple attempts, carefully staged to look like legitimate financial transactions. I began to understand the full scope of Sophia's plan. This wasn't just about money. It was about control, about erasing my place in the family narrative. But my grandmother had prepared me for precisely this moment. The trust fund wasn't a simple bank account. It was a complex financial instrument with multiple safeguards, hidden clauses that would activate under specific circumstances. Clauses that Sophia knew nothing about. As the days passed, I watched Sophia's confidence grow. Family gatherings became a subtle game of cat and mouse. Her smug looks, her not-so-subtle comments about family security, each moment was another piece of evidence. Mark grew more frustrated with each passing day. "We should confront her," he'd argue. But I knew better. Patience was our greatest weapon. "Not yet," I'd reply. "Let her believe she's winning." The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. A distant cousin, someone Sophia believed was completely uninvolved, reached out with a cryptic message. "I thought you should know," the text read. "Sophia's been asking questions about the family trust." Lots of questions. Each conversation, each document, each subtle manipulation. I was building a case that would not just protect my inheritance, but expose the deep-seated family dynamics that had been festering for years. My grandmother's lessons went beyond financial strategy. She had taught me about resilience, about understanding that true power comes from knowledge, preparation, and an unshakable sense of self. As the pieces began to align, I realized this was about more than money. It was about preserving a legacy, about protecting the true spirit of my grandmother's gift. Sophia thought she was playing a game of financial chess, but I had been trained by a grandmaster. The final move was approaching, and she had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed, another message from David. "Everything's ready," it read. "Whenever you are." I looked at Mark, a silent understanding passing between us. The time had come to reveal the truth, to expose the elaborate plan that Sophia believed would secure her future. But her future was about to look very different from what she imagined. The first phase was complete. The evidence was gathered. The trap was set. All that remained was to spring it. The family gathering was carefully orchestrated. A Sunday brunch at Mark's parents' house, neutral territory, but the perfect stage for what was about to unfold. Sophia arrived looking confident, her designer dress a stark contrast to the tension brewing beneath the surface. She kissed her parents, flashed a smile at me. That practiced, condescending grin that spoke volumes about her perceived victory. If only she knew. Mark's mother, Helen, began serving coffee. The familiar ritual felt like a countdown. I caught Mark's eye, a silent communication honed through years of marriage. "Before we eat," I said softly, my voice cutting through the morning chatter, "there's something we need to discuss." The room went silent. I pulled out a folder, meticulously organized, each document carefully preserved. David's forensic report sat on top, a damning testament to Sophia's elaborate scheme. For months, I began, someone has been attempting to fraudulently transfer the family trust fund. My eyes locked with Sophia's. Her smile flickered just for a moment. Helen looked confused. Mark's father, Robert, leaned forward. "Sophia," I continued, "has been systematically trying to forge documents, alter bank records, and essentially erase my connection to my grandmother's trust." The room became so quiet you could hear the subtle tick of the antique wall clock. Sophia's initial response was predictable. A nervous laugh. "That's ridiculous," she said, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. I began laying out the evidence, forensically examined documents showing her forged signatures, digital trails of communication, bank transfer attempts. Each piece of paper was a nail in her carefully constructed lie. David had been thorough. The documentation was irrefutable. These forgeries, I explained, weren't just simple attempts. They were part of a calculated plan to completely remove me from the family's financial narrative. Mark's father looked shell-shocked. Helen's hands trembled as she examined the documents. But the real bombshell was yet to come. My grandmother's trust wasn't a simple inheritance. It was a complex financial instrument with hidden clauses, protections she had meticulously designed decades ago. "What you didn't know," I said, looking directly at Sophia, "is that every attempt to fraudulently access the fund automatically triggered a series of protective measures." I slid additional documents across the table: bank reports, legal notifications, forensic analysis. Each piece told a story of attempted theft, each document a testament to my grandmother's strategic brilliance. Sophia's facade began to crumble. Her perfect makeup, her carefully constructed confidence, all of it started to dissolve. "The trust doesn't just protect the money," I explained. "It exposes those who try to steal it." The next hour was a systematic deconstruction of Sophia's plan. Every lie, every manipulation, every forged document, laid bare for the entire family to see. Mark's parents were devastated, not just by the attempted theft, but by the realization of the depths of Sophia's betrayal. "Why?" Helen whispered, her voice breaking. The answer was simple: entitlement, greed, a lifetime of believing she could manipulate her way to success. But my grandmother had prepared me for exactly this moment. Each protective clause in the trust was a lesson in resilience, in understanding that true wealth wasn't about money, it was about integrity. As the meeting concluded, the consequences became clear. Legal action was inevitable. The trust fund remained completely intact, protected by the very mechanisms Sophia had tried to circumvent. More than the money, what was exposed was the true nature of family dynamics. The lies, the manipulations, the years of subtle betrayals, all brought into the harsh light of truth. Sophia would face legal consequences, but the real punishment was the complete erosion of family trust. That evening, as Mark and I sat in our living room, he looked at me with a mixture of awe and love. "Your grandmother," he said, "she was something else." I smiled, thinking of Maria Delgado, a woman who had built her fortune from nothing, who understood that the greatest wealth was wisdom, preparation, and an unbreakable spirit. The trust fund was more than money. It was a legacy, a final lesson from a grandmother who had always been 3 steps ahead. Sophia had tried to erase my existence. Instead, she had only proven how deeply I belonged. The game was over, and I had won.